Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, Dr. Bowen is handling some business, and that leaves Luis Delgado in studio, 1A. Morning Talk. Morning.
Good morning, Stan. Good morning.
How are you?
Man, everything is great. Started off with a wonderful day, dropped my son off to school. And that always feels good, you know, just be involved with him at that level.
Take him every morning?
I try when I get up. You know, I'm older, so some days I get up a little beat up, you know, especially if I have a long night working. So, yes.
Pick him up?
No, he likes to take the bus home.
Okay.
But, you know, what I do now, man, that I started doing is, and shout out to Chief Daryl Roberts, who does this also, but I send him and my wife an inspirational message every day, but it's personal. It's not like something that you read in a quote. It's just something that I say. I'll say something like, I'm so happy to be your dad, man. You know, so just little things like that. So yeah.
Cool. I drop my wife drops the kids off. I pick them up. I pick them up from school every day. Every day, pick them up.
It's nice to be able to do that. I'm sure, Stan, that a lot of parents would love to do that if they had that, you know.
They can.
Well, you know, a
lot of parents would love to and can't. A lot of parents can.
Yeah.
And you can. If you could take time out for lunch, I'm not throwing dispersions at anybody, but we do what we want to do. That's all I'm saying.
That's a strong statement, Stan,
right.
and I agree with it. You know, it's strong. But you said something to me earlier that about a conversation that we were having prior to the show. You said that a lot of people aren't ready to have, you know, a particular type of conversation about a particular topic. And I would submit to you that this might be one of those topics, Dan. That people aren't ready to have that conversation, that you really can do what you want if you plan it out correctly.
If you plan it out and make the appropriate sacrifices.
Preparation is key.
Right. It's a matter of priorities and setting aside the time.
Yes, absolutely, man. So anyway, like I was saying, I like to send my wife and my son a personal message, and I encourage everyone to do that with their loved ones and with their friends, you know, checking in on people. It's an important part of our culture, our Afro-Indigenous culture, where we always check in on our elderly and on our ill. So it kind of starts with the family, and then you extend that love outside of the family.
Absolutely. Had a good weekend?
Stan, I had a wonderful weekend, did some things with the family, and then I went to vend. I'm a vendor. And so I just want to share with our family, our listeners and our viewers, that there's a new spot in Connecticut that's opening up, and it's called the Burn and Learn Center, and it's in North Branford, Connecticut. And it's a place where they're actually doing some phenomenal teaching and educating the community on all aspects of cannabis. So if you get a chance, go online. Their website is up, or stop by. They're on Foxen Road in North Branford. So that's what I did, Stan. I went out there and, we're continuing to educate people and to try to make it accessible to people without a lot of the, the whitewash and, nonsense that's going on out there.
Mm-hmm. Conversations, always a great subject. Because of course I'm in conversations all day, every day, and have recorded conversations for the last 40 years here in Hartford, in about every circle imaginable. I'm getting to the point now that the more conversations I hear, the more I see nothing happening. So I think conversations are good, but they're not good if you're trying to evoke action.
Well, I think that conversations are good if the intent is to come out of that conversation with some type of action. So and I think that when they take place like that,
Mm-hmm.
because people get an opportunity to kind of state how they see things and hear how other people are looking at it from their own perspective, because a lot of times we learn from people's stand, because we have we're limited individually, but when we have the other people involved, the communal consensus, you get to see how intelligent we can be as a group, all the ideas that we can build on. I can throw a little something out there, man, and you can put something bigger on top. You say, "Oh, that's beautiful, cacique. Let me share this with you."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So now we have, two people that are building. So when we have more, it becomes great. But there has to be action behind conversations.
I think there has to be action behind conversation if the intention of the conversation is to do something. I think that we're natural learners, all human beings.
Absolutely.
And school is filled with conversation. But there's no, when you go to school, you don't come out of school planning to do anything. It's not like you're going to go build a wall. You're learning. And I think conversations are great as we learn. And I think what people are actually doing is they're learning about each other. They're learning about opportunities, situations. But conversation, unfortunately, has been mistaken for action. And people will say, well, we need to have a community conversation.
Well, brother, that's a ploy that has been used by racists and other and politicians.
Now you say ploy. What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm just talking about the conversation.
Well, when they invite you, politicians use this all the time.
Wow.
They invite you to have a conversation, and then you share all your concerns and the things that you like to see done, and that's basically the end of it. That's as far as it goes. They agree that all these things should take place, but then after that, nothing happens.
Well,
it's a ploy. It's also at the workplace. Mm-hmm. I've had this happen when I was in New Britain. My supervisor knew that his supervisor was being extremely racist towards me, and he would say, don't worry about it. This in a couple of days, this will blow over. It's the same type of thing.
Well, I think it may be a ploy if the politician is the one that initiates the action. I'm just talking about conversation. I've been in many, many conversations. We're not initiated by a politician. I mean, it's not like politicians are the only. But I mean,
it don't matter who initiates it, Stan. If the idea person is not pushing for it to be more than just a conversation, also an action, then it's going to stay at the conversation level.
Okay, so I also believe that sometimes what we have are think tanks. We have think tanks, just like other groups have think tanks. The think tank may be at a barbershop, might be at a barbecue, might be at a kitchen table. I think that think tanks are not designed for action. They're designed to come up with policy, ideas, notions, and things along that line. What I'm building on is the whole idea of conversation. And so, if we're going to have conversation and learn, then the conversation can't be right automatically a racist ploy. Hey man, I'm far from the racist ploy. Not that those things don't happen, but before we bring into the conversation that it has to be a racist ploy, if every conversation is a racist ploy to keep us from doing anything, then why? Then it undermines.
Why are we having it?
It undermines. Why are we having a conversation? So clearly, conversations.
I was just stating some instances where I've seen how was that type of conversation, the inaction. Right. I was just pointing out some instances where I've observed it take place.
Those conversations we shouldn't be involved in. Those are easier in theory. Those are easier to resolve than we may think, because we don't have to go. They have a town hall, just don't show up. It's one thing to be invited, it's another thing to go. So if you go and you backslap, handshake, eat pizza, and sit down and all this, that, and the third, then leave the room, then that's all you have. So I would make the notion that if you go to a community conversation and leave without an action plan, then nothing is going to change. I mean, no tasks have been assigned, and the task can't be to meet next week.
Do you think that do you consider the African American Alliance a think tank?
No.
Does the African American Alliance have conversations?
Oh, absolutely.
And are they community about the community?
The purpose of the African American Alliance, I think, is misunderstood by a lot of people, because I think people project what their desire or wishes are onto organizations, not just the African American Alliance, but many organizations.
Just because of their name or something?
No, because of what they want to see. Like churches, for instance. A lot of people see the church as being something in the community that it is not, never will be, never was intended to be. But because they're not church people, they see the church as something that should be doing. The African American Alliance is established specifically to encourage the exchange of information and ideas among a group that at the time of its inception was divided.
So the African American Alliance is also guilty of having conversations without action?
No.
I say that respectfully.
I receive it respectfully. No, because that's not its purpose. Its purpose is to share information. That's where I was at the beginning before you made it into a racist ploy. Conversation.
I'll give you a couple different examples. Right, they were all racist.
Conversation is an opportunity to learn. And that's what you were saying when I chimed in. It's an opportunity to learn. Classrooms are conversation. Every learning exchange doesn't have to end in action. The problem isn't in the conversation. The problem is if you want action and you are going to have a conversation. So that's where I'm saying conversation is often misunderstood or cast now as we did something. Well, what did you do? We had a conversation. That isn't doing anything. It's learning. It's expanding the mind. It may be easing tensions. There's all kinds of reasons for conversation.
Well, I think that.
But if we're looking for action, the conversation ain't it.
Well, but I think, Stan, that any action, and I'm talking about in terms of black and brown people, our agenda, the way that we advocate for each other. I think that all of those actions, because we have to learn to use words. Like you can't be mad at everything, or you can't be upset. There's other words that you can use to express how you're feeling, and it can be you could be disappointed. You were heartbroken. It can't be mad. You can't be mad at everything. We have to find. So it's the same thing. I think that any conversation or any action has to start when you start that. You start the conversation by saying, "We're going to have a conversation about the drug dealing on the corner of, white and brown." And this conversation is, we want to see some action behind this. So if we made that clear in the beginning, then we understand what it is. But if we're just going to have some philosophical exchange, then that's different, Stan. I like to engage in both, but I think that there's a time and a place for both of those.
Absolutely. But one thing you said, which I found was interesting, we as black and brown people need to learn. I think there are some black and brown people that need to learn. Because black and brown people are not at the bottom of the totem pole, unlearned, suffering, don't know nothing, can't think their way out of a paper bag. Therefore, we must learn basic words to communicate so that we can get our act together. I don't receive that notion. I think black and brown people are extremely intelligent. There are some who may be caught up in certain areas where they need help, just like any other culture or people. But black and brown people by no means are stretching the imagination, are at a place where they need basic understanding of how words work and what they mean so that they can get along in life.
Well, I just hear a lot of people use the same term all the time about an experience that they have. And when I listen to the experiences that they have, I say to myself, I'm sure there are different words that you can use to describe these different experiences. It can't be the same words all the time.
Well, I would agree with you. I think a lot of times
I've never said that we're not smart, because the moment that I say that black and indigenous people are not smart, I'm in that conversation. And to be quite frank with you, Stan, I consider myself to be an intelligent man.
I think you are an intelligent man.
I don't know if I'm the most intelligent, but I know how to, take care of my...
Absolutely. So that's why I'm saying, you're not saying that we are unintelligent. But when we say if we make a comment like, black and brown people need to learn. No, some black and brown people need to learn. It assumes that black and brown people don't know. You generally don't need to learn what you know.
Yeah, when I speak about stuff like that, I'm not talking about general knowledge. I think, personal knowledge is a personal thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn as much as you want and as much time as you put into your knowledge seeking.
Mm-hmm.
However, brother, I'm talking about knowledge of self. And knowledge of our personal self, and then of our tribe. Who are we as a people?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So there's different levels of knowledge and different types of knowledge, and then there are some things that you need to know, so you can grow, and there are things you also need to know
mm-hmm.
that will keep you from growing, so you don't get involved in that, because not having knowledge of some things also can get you in trouble.
But that is a perspective and a tone that parents use for children, or the more educated to those who they deem as being less. So we need to teach you these things, and I'm always guarded, because who is the person teaching me, and who sets them as the instrument of all wisdom and knowledge?
Well, I certainly don't mean it like that. I mean it in the sense of...
Not you per se. I'm saying in general, because everyone's trying to teach somebody something, and they all think that what they're teaching is the end all to be all. Because, I know lots and 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 lots of people who are in the information distribution venture. It's not a business, but that's what they spend most of their time in life doing. and most of them don't agree with one another. So they're all coming from different perspectives. And maybe collectively they all have the sum total of this truth. But when they present their truth, they don't present it as I am a portion of the truth. They present it as this is something that you need to know, and your lack of knowing it is a detriment to you, which I think is always very interesting.
That could be true a lot of times, Stan. Although it sounds, however it sounds to you, that could be true. Not knowing something could be detrimental to you.
Yeah, depending on what it is, like how to get out the building when it's on fire.
So yeah, so and absolutely, and I think that I don't want to get biblical on you.
You can,
but that's why. I guess it
more
says
than
in
talk.
the Bible, or Christians always say, that's why God gave us free will. So we have the ability to discern for ourselves. I can say, I think that being a Seventh-day Adventist is better than being a Protestant, and I have to make my case for it. You know what I'm saying? Or I can reverse it. You know what I mean? But I have to be able to discern for myself why I feel the way I feel, why I believe in that, why it makes me comfortable. It's not for other people to decide for me. That's why we have individual free will.
Right.
Free will is not a collective.
Right.
But it could be. It could be because consciousness comes into play.
Well,
there's other stuff.
If the free will individuals decide to come together to create a collective, which would in some sense be a quote unquote church, out-called ones, ecclesia, out-called ones. So the out-called ones, or tribe, as you would say, so there's a collective
that's
consciousness.
More palatable for me.
There we go. there is a tribe and the tribal leader.
There you go.
The one has collective wisdom of the group and shares that wisdom.
Yes.
I think we have this in a multitude of cultures with a multitude of peoples. It bears itself out or manifests itself in many different ways. And I think what we need as a society more than anything is tolerance. Tolerance. There seems to be a real big push on conforming, particularly in the political circles. If you don't conform to what we want, we'll cancel you, period. Which is a form of warfare. It's just not armed. It will turn into armed.
It could turn.
It will turn.
Yeah.
Into armed conflict. Right now, it's a.
Hey, Stan, what a wonderful segue that you just opened up, brother, with this political stuff. Look, what happened to Pelosi's husband?
Well,
what was that all about? What did that guy attack him?
Of course, we don't have any information, but other than what we hear in the media, depending upon what side of the media you're listening to, because there seems to be a dueling media too. But if you take all of the information, it would appear that this guy was just a crazy guy.
Well, check this out. I heard. I don't want nobody to get mad at me.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the Republicans sent him.
The Republicans sent him.
Yeah.
And where'd you hear that?
It's in the it's in the air, Stan.
There's a lot of things in the air.
So check this out. Let me ask a question.
That's Lou, Facebook. That's not me. Please don't sanction me. Go on. I'm just joking.
Stan is scared of the masters.
No, I mean, if they burn your house down, you don't have a place to live.
So check this out, Stan.
Mm-hmm.
Check this out. This is a serious question for our listeners and our viewers, and I would love a response. Is this what the future looks like for politicians? They're going to be sending people after each other like that?
That's called warfare.
Don't forget, we already had that in Hartford.
When did we have it in Hartford?
Stop it, Stan. Don't act like you don't know.
I'm unaware of what you're talking about.
Charles Matthews.
Oh, when he was jumped?
He got beat up by that dude Teddy.
Outside his house.
Yeah. And he was sent by political operatives.
This is nothing new. Actually, as has been presented to me, because I don't know. U.S. and American politics, particularly in Hartford, is lightweight, childish, and entry level compared to the politics of, this is what I've been told, Jamaica and Puerto Rico.
What? Listen,
where folk get killed.
Listen, they will bury they will chase your whole family out of town where you can't come back in Jamaica and in Puerto Rico.
Right. So
Look what they did to the governor. They ran him out. He can't go back.
Right.
He's under a death threat, but he's still the representative for the island. And this is
off island.
Right.
Off
racism
world.
And colonialism 101 right here on Morning Conversations. That's what it looked like. The people of Puerto Rico chased the governor out. He had to resign. And then the corrupt politicians of the island appointed him the representative to the House of Representatives after the people chased him out.
They're just looking out for him.
This is what corruption looks like. And then we have the U.S. government, right? Where you know how they say when you see a crime, you have to report it. Mm-hmm. Well, the big brother, U.S. government, is watching all of this and just stands back because they have nothing to gain by getting involved. There's no gain for them at all.
Well, you make a good point. You make a good point. Do the only time it would seem the political forces actually get involved is when there's a personal gain. And now let me rephrase that. When politicos, when individual politicians get involved, it's seemingly only because there's something for them to gain.
Well, we had that kind of stuff here in Connecticut too. Don't forget.
Well, speaking of Connecticut at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, check this out. Let's not forget. Let's not go too far now. Mm-hmm. They let that dude resign. The state's attorney. Mm-hmm. They let him resign so they wouldn't have to prosecute him. Think about that.
Hartford Public Schools.
Think about that.
Hanau.
No, but Hanau, he's gonna eventually get something somewhere because he can't get away.
No one gets away.
Right. Eventually. But they think about that. Mm-hmm. They've made a conscious and a willful decision not to prosecute this man for the crimes that he committed. They allowed him to resign. This was all in the paper. This is not me talking.
Right.
This is all in the paper. This is all public information, public knowledge.
So
a criminal was allowed. We have the same thing in Hartford, though. The same thing with Jason Thody. Right? He was allowed to continue to be the police chief after he committed a crime that you and I or Joe Regular would have been prosecuted for.
Right, but I think it's only fair to mention what that act was, because crime everyone doesn't know what you're talking about.
Well, the fact is, Dan, that if it was something that you and I would have been prosecuted for
with the car,
it was something that it was enough. Okay, he shouldn't have been let off like that.
Well, I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, that has to do with the.
And I know we're jumping around a lot, Stan, and you don't like that, but it's all tied in.
It's all tied in. It's all tied in. You're doing a good job of threading the needle.
I'm trying to learn, brother.
Right. He serves at the pleasure of his boss. So as long as the forces to whom he has to give an account to say it's okay, he keeps his job. He had an issue with his car, run up against some guardrails and stuff like that. Now, if that would have been a regular police officer, they probably would have been.
But they're saying that he was.
So I don't know that that's. I don't know that that's a crime.
It's a problem drinking. It was an issue of DUI.
But those are allegations.
And if you're going to be fair to Jason,
right,
and to the public, you talk about a car, then you also have to put down that there was a suspicion of DUI.
Right, but that in this country, we still have allegations. Allegations, right? So it's alleged. You're not, because allegedly. I mean, there's been school officials been known to be, can't walk straight.
Well, Mike Peters was a known drunk. He was brought home a lot of times drunk.
Yeah, we got lots of officials who got brought home for all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Elected positions. So my point isn't to give cover to any of these people. My point is that as Americans, quote unquote, you are innocent until proven guilty. That changed a long time ago. Now an allegation is enough, to the degree that the charge should be enough to cause an investigation, because you're no longer above suspicion. So I mean, that I think is all part of this political warfare that's spilled over from the political into just the regular. I mean, if you want to ruin somebody, particularly in the child care business, just accuse them of being abusive to the children. You shut their whole business down. I mean,
pedophile, molester,
this has happened, and folks are ruined because a disgruntled parent.
Yeah.
So I think we don't do ourselves. So that's why you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. It's not to protect the guilty; it's to protect the innocent. Because if the innocent are accused, you are, you can't be just drawn out and hung from a tree. Strange fruit in the old days.
History of that.
Well, that's why I'm saying so.
But it still goes on today,
and it seems to be moving more toward that. So now
it's already there.
Now more than ever, you want the presumption of innocence to outweigh the accusation of guilt. One of the viewers says here, clearly this suspect is mentally ill. No doubt about that. Talking about Pelosi incident. Latest fact out today on Pelosi incident. The House has various cameras. Yeah, I heard about that. Various cameras outside, yet no one was watching or monitoring. Mr. Pelosi's 911 conversation said the assailant was a friend. Now that is true, but now the spin on that is it was a coded language to the 911 operator that he was in distress. There's a whole lot more than meets the eye. This we do know, but the Capitol Police, who have cameras outside the house, noticed that there were police cars outside the house.
The only thing that stands out for me in this conversation is that the Republicans might have sent that guy. They might have talked. If he has mental illness, they might have pushed some stuff on him.
You're the first person I've heard that from. I've not heard that from any. I haven't heard that anywhere.
But you opened up another door to a wonderful conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about, I heard this young black woman in a either on Facebook or one of the social media outlets say that black men in this country can be killed twice. They can be killed physically, and then they can be killed professionally, which is what they're doing to Kanye West now, she says.
Oh, that's an interesting concept. I reject that. Well, I don't reject what she's saying. I reject that it's happening to Kanye.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And so the reason is that I say that is because, they're calling him an anti-Semite. But when you look up that term in the dictionary, only black people can be Semite. So how can he be an anti-Semite? Can you be anti-black as a black person? Like that? Like they're saying?
You can be very anti-black as a black person. Okay. That's one of the things that now there's within the circles of blackness. You can lose your blackness for a whole lot of reasons. So the old quote unquote Oreo cookie, black on the outside, white on the inside. So
And all skinfolk and kinfolk type of stuff?
Yes. That's a little bit more nuanced. You can be black and not black. Like the young Republican lady, I can't think of her name. It's always
Candace Owen.
Candace Owen would be considered by many people not black at all. Blackness for many is a conscious mindset. And if you don't have the conscious mindset, it doesn't care how dark your skin is.
Right.
All right. You're not black. So black is more of a construct of consciousness, and it's an odd mix because
shared values and struggles.
Yeah.
Et cetera.
Right. Because
that form that consciousness.
As much as people like to keep it quiet in Hartford, there's an issue among black folk from the diaspora and out of historical captivity, and folks that come here from the West Indies.
And
the struggle is different.
Not just the West Indies, because I think that people that from Africa also view African Americans like the West Indian people do. You know, like white people.
Right.
But I'll tell you why that is, Stan.
Before we get too but before we get too far away. So skin tone.
Yes.
Brown skin.
Yes.
Is not necessarily quote unquote black. It sounds odd, but so yes, black people can be against black people. Because you were saying about Kanye.
Yeah. So tell me why you don't think that he's being singled out. They didn't make a big deal about other stuff that goes on. But I think that, there's some things that we just want information. I'm like, for me, I want information.
I would love to have information.
I don't want to start no trouble with anybody. But why do Jewish people get so mad when you call them out for stuff that's true?
You shouldn't say Jewish people. You should say, just like I was saying earlier.
Well, I'm
glad I said this earlier.
Yeah.
About all and people. A small group of individuals in charge of something by no means is everybody. Like the police. All police are not bad.
You're completely wrong on that.
What, all police are not bad?
Absolutely.
You think all police are bad?
Absolutely.
Well, I don't believe that. We have a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
I think there are some bad cops.
But if you're a good cop and you know that there's a bad cop and you have done nothing about it, then to me,
you're
and to
a bad
people
cop.
like me, no, you're not bad. You're worse than that bad cop. Because you're supposed to be in good standing up here in your head. You're supposed to be lucid and clear. You know what I'm saying?
We have to put that
and
then that means that, see, I'm willing to go with that. However, that has to apply all the way across. Teachers, doctors, preachers, everybody.
It applies to everything.
Everyone that knows someone else that ain't doing the right thing need to turn those people in. That's in essence what you're saying.
Not turn them in. You don't have to turn them in, but you can hold them accountable.
How do you hold them accountable without turning them in?
Well, in the case of the police, you get them fired.
How do you get them fired without turning them in?
You go through that process. But there's other instances, man, that you don't have to call the police, that you can talk to people and hold them accountable. And there's other things. You don't
think good cops try to talk to bad cops?
No, not at all.
There's corrupt.
Because they're letting it happen, Stan.
A little leaveneth the whole lump, not the other way around. I think that what we have is an unwillingness to actually deal with things that are bad. So we go around the block to get to where we want to be, as opposed to dealing what's right in front of us. Bad cops should be fired on the spot, period. Bad teachers should be fired, not retrained, on the spot, period. We need to deal with the folks who are not doing right and stop coddling them. But that's just my opinion. But back to Kanye and your comment about quote-unquote Jewish people. Jewish people aren't in charge of everything. You have some people who are in charge. And those individuals who are in charge, if they are Jewish and you are coming for their power structure, expect them to push back. I don't care whether they're gang leaders, organized crime leaders, hospital administrators, anyone's in charge of something and you come for what they got, they're going to come at you. That's just human nature. Okay. And so Kanye is coming for people, and they're not going to have it. You didn't get here on your own. You got here together with us. And now you want to become golden child. That's in essence, because Kanye is not a stupid man.
No.
He is not some innocent little bystander.
So the way that you said that, though, and help me process this, Stan, because I'm, you know how I think. So,
and I could be wrong.
Kanye, the way that you presented it is just being an uppity.
No.
What?
No.
That's how you sounded.
No. That's how you heard it, because
because
the
you
ears
said
and
that
eyes in which you hear information is through the lens of race.
Through the lens of my experience,
right?
Not race. My experience.
So your experience is not a good one as it relates to those things. To me, this is about power. It's about power, not race. It's about power. But that's my experience. So we can only speak from where we are, as I see it. Kanye, and to close up that conversation, it is as though, and I'm not saying that he or those who he worked with are of this group that I'm about to use as an analogy. If you are part of Boston South Side, a Southie, and you came up with the rest of us, and you decide one day you want to be turning state's evidence, you're not becoming uppity. You're a rat fink. And people take care of rat finks. Doesn't matter where you are, whether you're a police officer, a clergyman.
So once again, help me interpret what you're saying.
I'm
going to tell you what I heard.
Okay.
I heard that you are okay with a brother being crucified for speaking out against people who are hurting our community. That's what he's alleging. I'm just saying what he said. I'm not he's alleging that these people are hurting not just the artists, but our community in general. And so you're saying that you're okay because his willingness to expose them gives them the right to hurt him in business, hurt him. There's been physical threats. They try to cancel him, all these things. You're okay with all of that because he's exposing their crimes. That's what it comes down to.
I don't see Kanye as a brother under attack. I see Kanye as a human being who, somewhere along the line, woke up to what's going on and wants to let the world know. I would put him in the same class as Donald Trump. These people have played the game and done very well in the game, and then either they got a consciousness, they got an awakening, someone rang the bell, they got convicted, they found God. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, they no longer want to play by the rules that made them filthy rich. Kanye is not a helpless little man who's trying to muddle his way through the streets of San Francisco with no knowledge of everything. He is a businessman, and an extremely good one. He is savvy with words. He is articulate. He is borderline genius if you probably look at his IQ and all that Mensa stuff. All right. He has managed to survive in a world where most people of his complexion are eaten alive. He is alive.
All right. A lot, huh?
The Ross Perot's of the world could there are people who aren't where they used to be because they decided they were going to be different and go against the system. And now he's paying the price for that. Now, will he survive? We'll see. I hope he does. I kind of like Kanye. However, before all of this crucifixion that he's going through right now, black folk was talking about Kanye like he was a dog in many areas. Now, are people supporting his White Lives Matter? I remember when he did the White Lives Matter, a lot of folk weren't happy with that. Now though, so it's like it's a matter of like, what's the flavor of the day? Today we're gonna support Kanye. No, today he's crazy. Oh no, today he's a genius. Today, where have people been across the board with Kanye? Kanye, by virtue of the fact of where he is at, is a savvy businessman, and he is flexing his muscle. Comes a time in every tribe where leadership is challenged. Step up. But understand, if you don't beat me, there will not be a second chance at this, because you are challenging the system and the status quo. That's good. Go for it. I hope you succeed. Have your ducks in order. Because if you fail, there will be no mercy. And that's that level that he's playing at. He's not playing at some little, this is not a little.
It's not T-ball.
T-ball. That's a good example. Everyone's going to get a merit badge because, appreciation. Right. There's no losers.
You swing until you hit the ball. There's no strikeout.
You did good, Billy.
This major league, and you're playing with 2 strikes.
Right. And so if you want to step up to the high table, come on, bring it.
Yeah.
But understand, there will be no mercy.
There's a price to pay.
There's a price to pay. Now, he apparently feels it's time for him to take these people on. And, I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and he feels that this is a calling from the Lord. He has the Lord on his side. If that is true, then he will survive. But, the only person I know emphatically that walked on earth that had the Lord on their side was nailed to a cross. So people need to think about that when they talk about God got my back in the battle. Those that God has their back in the battle don't end up good. That's not a failure on God's part. That means, are you willing to go all the way?
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to give up
it's
the
really
ghost,
it's really a test.
Right? If you're not willing to give up the ghost to make the point, then you're not real.
Yeah.
Which is in my never to be humble opinion why we don't have leaders anymore, because people aren't willing to die for the cause. It seems like Kanye may be willing to die for the cause, so they're going to make a martyr out of him. Either way, he wins.
I agree.
He wins either way.
I think Kanye is.
And you know who I think Kanye's calling out? I don't think he's calling out the power brokers. He's calling out all of the so-called people who say they stand up for their communities, who say they stand. What's going on here?
The powers that be, Stan. We're talking about the wrong stuff.
There we go. They're
listening closely.
They're coming through the system and
this might be our last show, folks.
Right.
I'll get the call from Stan later.
Right, there we go. Hey Lou, I'm in traction. What happened? And these thugs beat me up under the bridge.
Well, we have a saying in Puerto Rico, Stan, and I want to share with the audience. El mono sabe a qué palo se trepa. And that means that the monkey know what tree he climbed. And that's what I'm going to say to people who want to bring that noise this way.
Well, I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. But I think he's calling out all the people who say that they want to stand up for something. He's doing a kind of like a mental lockjaw. My man that took the knee. With football. What's his name?
The say again, Stan, the one?
That took the knee during the football game.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, he's pulling a Colin Kaepernick.
Well,
And will those who could make a difference step up? All right. Or will it turn into an opportunity for commercialization of the movement that benefits the corporate titans even more? It's very difficult to take them down by making statements. You have to create a movement where the people who are involved in all of this say no more. And I don't know that he's going to be able to pull that off.
Well, I think that he has the good thing about it is that he has a platform. He has a huge platform.
He does.
It's international, it's worldwide, and I think a lot of people agree with the stuff that he says. You know, but I'm just once again, I would like to hear from our listeners and our viewers about that word, the anti-Semitism, the anti-Semitist. What is Semitism? Let's get some comments. I know there's a lot of people listening. Let's get some comments. Let's get some feedback from you about how y'all feel about this Kanye situation, because it's something that is affecting one of us, and we should know, a little bit about what's going on, not just in our community, but on a broader scale, just to be informed, because some of these things are going to impact us also.
Is Kanye one of us, though? That's I think a legitimate question. He's brown. So, is he one of us? Is Trump a common man? He comes off as a common man, but he's not a common man. I think sometimes we get caught up.
Have you ever had any deals with pimps, hustlers, people who run game? You never had that experience? No? Well, this is one of the things that I was saying earlier, that there's some things that you should know so you don't get in trouble. But when I was in the Army, when I was 18 years old, brother, between the 4 years that I spent in the Army, it was a college of life. I met prostitutes that I was friendly with. I met pimps. I met hustlers. I met scam artists. I met people who ran game all day, all kinds of hustle. And so Donald Trump is a common hustler. He's not a smart man because he doesn't know the law. You know what I'm saying? He thinks he can do whatever comes to his mind, whatever little idea, he thinks he could just, and he does, because nobody's really holding, no, we can't have one, an agency following people that come around all the time. But he's not a smart man. He does all the little stuff that these people that I told you about do, all of it. He's a con man, and that's what he is. He's not a smart man.
Well, he's a very rich man, though.
Because he learned how to be a con man. And he's a very rich man because he got a huge start from his father. If you had a huge start from like he has, then you might own CVS today.
That may, I don't know. Maybe not. He got started off with $1 million. There's a lot of people whose parents start them off with $1 million. That's common among people who have met much wealth. So the fact that he started off with $1 million is not give him a golden spoon to success. There's plenty of people who start off with $1 million and wind up broke. There's people who win more than $1 million and wind up broke. There's basketball players, stars, movie stars, all kinds of people who have had that kind of. The point I'm making is that Kanye is not one of us. He's brown. He's brown.
I kind of laugh at the idea or the notion that me, myself, I can question anybody's blackness. You know what I mean? Or indigenousness.
Can a Semite be against a Semite?
You said a black person can be against a black man, so yes.
The question is, this is from a viewer, the question is, what is a Semite? And is Kanye a Semite?
Well, according to the definition in the dictionary, yes.
Why? Because he's brown?
Because he's of African descent, and those are the true Semites. So in that sense, Stan, you are also a Semite, as a descendant of African folk.
So could it be that the word has been co-opted and that's reassigned?
That's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying that the Europeans, that the Jewish people that live in Israel now are just Europeans, white Europeans that took on that name, but they're not Semites. They're not true Semites. And that's what's making them upset. But Dr. John Henry Clark, right? And I've spoken about him. Mm-hmm. The great Dr. Clark, showed us that when he debated a Jewish rabbi. It's on YouTube. You can see it for yourself. And there was no pushback. He educated. And he started out the conversation by saying, I debate my equals, everybody else I teach. And he was a teacher that day. And they could not push back on him. Mm. So, there's just some questions. And I think that because this may be coming to light, the reality is coming to light, it makes people uncomfortable. It makes them uncomfortable. So in that sense, I keep saying on the show, we are in the time of the Great Awakening. And this is part of that. This information that keeps coming out. We were talking about the pyramids in North America, Stan. Mm-hmm. And you said that a lot of people, you said, I have knowledge because one of my mentors was deeply into this. But most people are not ready to have this conversation about the pyramids, how they got here, who built them. They're saying now that, there's a lot of information that's coming out now and in terms of education, right? I'm concerned that our children don't know any of this, and they should, because it makes you feel like when I started, I'm changing my name. I told you my name is Cacique now, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes you feel different, Stan, completely, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You feel different because you are identifying, you are self-identifying, and you're creating that identity, not who the government says you are, and these colonizing fools and these racists. No, we create that identity for ourselves. And with that, I want to say this to the Spanish-speaking people of the island of Boriquen. Stop calling yourselves Puerto Ricans. That's a colonialist term. It's a slave term. Own the name that our ancestors had for the island. That's who Boricuas, from the island of Boriquen. Okay? Let's start claiming our identity as indigenous people. This is where we begin the consciousness and the community that Stan and I keep talking about. It's by self-identifying. The same thing for the black African American. Whatever name you all want to give yourselves, identify like that. Claim your identity so we can begin to build and grow.
This is a worthwhile conversation that I think lots of people won't have because they could lose their black card or the card of noted respect that is handed out by those who do such things. So, and I had this one of my dearest and bestest friends on the planet. We had a conversation at this point that had to be 40 some years ago, because he was going to change his name. His name to this day has been changed to the name that he said he was going to change his name to. And I upset him by saying when I had my first son, I was going to name him Boy. he failed to see the humor in that. I thought there was much humor. But having said that, the headspace, because at the end of the day, we are our thoughts. We're our thoughts. Our thoughts are housed in this temporary dwelling place of human flesh. I am one who embraces humanity. I think that, race as we have it here is a false construct. We're human beings. Are we our island? Are we our continent? Are we our town? Are we a location? Or are we grander than our location? Are we the result of spiritual entity? Are we the result of aliens? Are we the result of evolution? Are we only our location? And if we are just from, if our cultural heritage and identity is from where we come from, then by happenstance you're born in Russia. By happenstance you're born in Africa. By happenstance you're born in Canada, Brazil, Mexico, as those places are called now, relative to what they were called from antiquity and times in the past. We live right now. We live in the now. We don't live tomorrow. We don't live in the past. We live right now. And so if you are your history, then perhaps we want to be a history that we are unfamiliar with. We want to embrace something that is long gone, but we make relevant in the now. What is it that causes an individual to be at a state of peace? What works for that person? To me, if it works for you, good, go for it. Go for it. Whatever floats the boat. But I think if we're human beings, we all have our humanity in common. We all bleed. We all think. We all have dreams and aspirations. Everyone is not a leader. Everyone is not a follower. Some people are good mechanically. Others are good thinkers. Others are good builders. But humanity is gifted with talents that when we work together, we do great things. Humanity is also capable of horrendous atrocities that human beings visit on other human beings. Unspeakable horrors that people do to one another, particularly in times of conflict or war, which is, people imposing their anger on another people because they won't acquiesce to their will. So if we're all human, what is it about us that needs to identify as a subset of that humanity? I guess is my question.
Well, Stan, I would submit to this conversation the idea that all the answers to all the questions you pose are already here, but those answers have been denied to us. And that's why we are in the time and space that we find ourselves now. You know what I'm saying? Because all these things have to come out. They can't. It's like water finds its way out somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You can't hold water. So all these things are happening now, and a lot of this information is going to be revealed. It's coming, Stan. A lot of your questions is coming, and you'll see. But the other thing that I would submit to the conversation, brother, is that in terms of education in this country, when you take a good look at it, it has to be one of the very worst. Our kids leave high school and they can't change a tire.
Now, this is not good. I mean, make a
great
great point, but I mean, it's not. Yeah,
they can't change a tire. They don't know how to balance a bank, their savings and their checking. They don't know how to handle that.
Simple math is quite a challenge for many people.
They don't know how to fill out a job application. They don't have a resume ready. So it's like I said on the show before. Education in this country is disrespectful to indigenous and Afro-centric cultures, because all they do, Stan, is they prepare our children. It's like a farming system for big corporations of America. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. And I'll give you an example.
Well, that's training. That's what education has traditionally done.
No, but training is not education, because I said on the show before, you train animals and you educate people.
Well, maybe people are viewed as animals.
And when you're training and when you receive training, right? That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing is they're hurting us. And see, here's the other thing. Education is not memory. You know, that's rote. Memorizing stuff is training, right? Education is learning things, you know, learning new things and learning things about yourself and the world around you. Mm-hmm. And our kids they don't even know what that is. Well, you know what I'm saying? So we have to be more, and speaking about conversations with action behind them.
Right, because I was going to
certainly one of the ones that we
right, because I was going to say we come full circle,
of course,
with the conversation.
Absolutely.
Where the parent is the primary teacher and the primary human being responsible for transferring wisdom and information to their children. And
that's partly true, Stan.
If the parent opts to send their child to school, then they are using the school as a tool to help in that process. But they can't depend on the school.
Not necessarily, but yeah.
You know, I mean, like we were saying, I pick my children up from school every day to the detriment and the harm of my older kids. You'd have thought that they didn't know how to ride on a bus or anything. They expect me to pick them up to take them anywhere at a beyond age where, why are you calling me? Well, I need a ride. But that's my fault for shuffling them all over the place. But my kids, my one daughter this year gets on a bus and comes home.
That's like huge for her.
Well, it's a practical issue because they go to different schools and they are
far apart.
They're 30 minutes apart. So I pick her up from the bus stop, which is a distance away from the house. So I do pick them both up, but I don't go to the school to get them. Now, next year, they'll hopefully be in the same school. But this year is the first year that I didn't pick up my youngest daughter. But I want to look at them when they come and get in the car, and I want to ask them, how was school?
How was your day? Yeah.
Right, because I could jump out the car and go in the building if I have to. If the answer doesn't seem correct, we're going to have a problem. How was your day? All right, that's cool. So my wife drops them off. I pick them up.
That's beautiful.
Because they are my responsibility. They're my responsibility. So I have to do that. So I think that you're teaching your children is the responsibility of the parent, the grandparent, the aunt, the auntie. If it's a broader community, that embraces them, they're responsible. So you have to make sure your kids know certain things. You can't say that the schools aren't teaching them. And I'm willing to embrace the fact that the schools aren't doing such a great job for some kids.
But here's the thing, Stan, and this is a beautiful point that you make with your kids, because you help me illustrate the point that I want to make about adults. Mm-hmm. So all these people, you, your wife, your brothers, your sisters, her brothers, her sisters, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, older cousins, all the people in the community, they can only do what they know. And if they only know what the system has taught them,
they're in trouble.
But that's what's happening right now. That's why we're in trouble.
They're in trouble.
Because we have expectations that the teaching starts at home and the parents are the first teachers and this and that. Correct? You're absolutely right. But we have to look at the bigger picture. Where did that parent learn to parent? Who was his teachers?
I hope it wasn't the school.
Well, for many of us, Stan, most of us, a lot of that stuff is in school. We learn other things at home, but they have more to do with values. You know what I'm saying? And beliefs.
Yeah, but those are the things that help you.
Teaching a lot of things. Like, I can't teach my son algebra because I don't know trigonometry.
Algebra and trigonometry, I can understand you send your son to school to learn those things, but your son is not going to learn the values that only you can transfer to him.
So here's the thing.
On how to be an adult, how to make the adult decisions. On those values hopefully those values aren't coming from the school.
And that's all good. But here's the thing with that, right? Now you're sending him to a place that a lot of times, Stan, the teachings that you give your child at home are contradicted by the education he's supposed to be receiving from school.
And
so now you have a quandary. It's not one issue. You have a quandary of issues because now you have parents who are, and everybody around that child is somebody who is another trained individual of the system that's training that child to be another trained individual of the system. You know what I'm saying? And then you put more stuff on top of that. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, when you send them to school, a lot of the stuff that you're teaching them is being contradicted. I'm talking about the values, the beliefs, and things like that. So now, by the time the kid is good and confused, he is a trained member of society.
Well,
that's what you want to have.
This is where it comes down to personal responsibility and stepping up to the plate. Like we were saying, if Kanye's message is more to his contemporaries, the people who are in these positions, to step up, stand with me, in essence, then on a more down to earth level, where we are, the parent at the very least could step up and take control of their kids in terms of what is in their head. If the child is well prepared to come out of the house to deal with what goes on, how was school? Well, they had a fight in the school today. They had a fight? Yeah. That's problematic. So my wife and I will hear about my daughter's school. My middle girl, all right, because I have 3 girls. One's much older than these 2. So I can't say she's my oldest daughter because she's not. She's my middle daughter. So a fight in her school. Now, her school had a lockdown. In theory, it was a medical emergency, which I have a problem with. So you lock the school down because of a medical emergency? Now, my daughter thought it was more than the medical emergency.
Like a bomb threat or something.
There were police outside the library. And so, I don't know. something didn't seem right. I think they want us to believe it wasn't bad. See, that's the response I need to hear from her. Because she's thinking.
On her own.
On her own. Right. Now, why would you put children in a school through the trauma of a lockdown for an ambulance arriving and leaving? People get sick. They need emergency medical. So, I mean, what's the deal? So, that's just me. I'm just saying that's just me. So, this may not be the norm for everyone else on the planet or in the community, but for me, I have a problem with that. So, that should translate into her psyche, too. Because she's not too far away from me and her mom. She's her daughter, right? So, some of the things we think should be manifest in the way she thinks. I'm not so sure that was a matter. I mean, that I expect to hear now. If I hear something that's not right, I have to address it at the school. If I don't hear a great answer from the school, she will never go back there. Ever. She'll either go to a different school or I will homeschool her. See, I'm not going to play with the school. They got one chance to get it wrong. And I'm out. It's like going someplace to eat and you get a violent reaction to the food and they have to pump your stomach. You going to go back there and eat? No.
That's crazy.
You don't get a second chance at food poisoning. So if they poison her mind, in my opinion, she got to go. See, I'm the only one that can make that decision in terms of her mind being poisoned. Adults, parents, if you going to let the school change the way your kid thinks about things, turn them into something that you don't want them to be, then it's a wrap. I can't, there's nothing I can do about it because you're the only person who can do that. So if we're going to rescue minds of our people, the one place one has to start is with one's own kids. I mean, if we can't rescue the minds of our children, how are we going to change the community? That doesn't make any sense.
I agree with that, Stan.
You can't rescue a community if you can't rescue your own children.
Yeah.
Because that's the start. So if they're getting access to your kids and you're letting them manipulate your children's minds, they'll take over the house. The community is our children.
And it's not
our
even the
community's
house,
strength is our children.
The problem is not even the house, it's later on when they're adults. Because even Frederick Douglass said it is easier to educate children than to reform, adults. Something to that effect was, was his quote. So I agree. We have an opportunity to, but I think we have, I think we've done a good job, Stan, in this show of sharing information and trying to spur conversation within the community and even farther, because there's people from farther than the Hartford area that listen to the show. So I think that we've I've heard from people from Hamden, from New Haven, from Brantford. They listen to the show and they say, "Hey man, I heard your show and you guys are bringing good stuff out." So it's been good. It's been good.
Absolutely. Any shout outs?
Yeah, I want to just definitely give a shout out once again to the former our chief of police in Hartford, Daryl Roberts, for being, standing your ground in tough times, man. And so thank you, brother, for being a true brother in arms, like they say. I'd like to give a shout out to Fred Phillips and to George Shorty Davis, the Hartford legend, man. These guys have been doing the what's the name of their group, Stan? Man Standing Up.
Yes.
Against violence. And I think they're a phenomenal group. They greet the kids at the beginning of the year. Throughout the year, they go out and speak. And so I think that's a great thing. I want to give a shout out once again to Dean Jones. They got the Hoop Wave coming up. Hoop Wave is coming up. Sign up. They have a phenomenal basketball tournament for middle and high school students. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to the new Burn and Learn Center in North Brantford. It's an education center for everything about cannabis.
Burn and learn.
Burn and learn. Thank you, family. I hope y'all have a great week. It's been an amazing day so far. Great show. I want to build on this. And blessings to everyone from Cacique. Peace.
All right, my friends. Our time together has come to an end. And so we will say to you, bye. Have a great rest of your day. Ciao, ciao.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.